morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, July 27, 2016. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to CATEX TV. British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said today that he expects the United Kingdom to retain the rights for its financial firms to sell services across the European Union member states after Britain leaves the European Union. He was speaking to reporters in New York. He was asked a question whether or not Britain's financial services sector would be able to keep its so-called passporting rights. And he quickly answered, I do. He said there are two reasons for optimism about this. He said, first of all, London offers the deepest pools of liquidity, talent, and skill for the capital formation needs of businesses across Europe. And then he said it's an open relationship for goods and services is an essential part of trade between Britain and the continent. He said it's very much in the interest of both parties to keep those flows going. He also told reporters that he had received reassurances from a number of individual countries, specifically naming Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, and India, about negotiating independent trade deals with the UK. Of course, none of those countries are European countries. I suspect Mr. Johnson is being overly optimistic. The European Union today announced that their main negotiator is going to be a former French foreign minister who blames Britain for losing his job under the presidency of Nicolas Sarkozy. He's known as a very strong European Union federalist. Meanwhile, in Britain, financial numbers have been released showing that UK retailers suffered their sharpest fall in years, actually in 4 years, in the months after the UK exit vote on June 23rd. Official figures indicated that the economy had grown fairly robustly in the run-up to the vote, but there was a sharp decrease from June 28th to July 14th as retailers cut orders with suppliers by the most since the 2008 financial crisis. According to an HSBC analyst, it's a bad start. If you're looking for a relatively resilient consumer as we are, then this is not particularly encouraging. It's expected that the Bank of England is going to cut interest rates next week for the first time since 2009. Meanwhile, the big pharmaceutical company GlaxoSmithKline earlier today announced plans to invest about $360 million US into 3 plants in Britain, sweeping aside concerns about growth following the Brexit. Chief Executive Officer Andrew Whitty, who was among dozens of business leaders who had argued that Britain should remain in the EU, said that Britain's competitive corporate tax system and skilled workforce influenced the investment decision. The investment will go to Durham and Hertfordshire in England, as well as to Montrose in Scotland. California Governor Jerry Brown is at the Philadelphia Democratic National Convention, so he instructed his acting governor, Tom Torlakson, to issue an emergency declaration for Los Angeles County due to the sand fire. The sand fire has now torn through about 58 square miles of dry brush, burned 18 homes to the ground, and had temporarily displaced about 20,000 people in Santa Clarita. Fire officials are saying that it is very unlikely that they are going to be able to contain this fire anytime soon. There apparently is enough fuel and so-called dry vegetation available to the fire for it to burn for some time. So it's really going to depend on the winds as to which direction the fire is going to go in. There was a rescue operation near the Aleutian Islands earlier today in which merchant vessels rescued 46 crew members who had abandoned a sinking fishing ship. The 220-foot-long Alaska Juris started taking on water earlier in the Bering Sea. It's owned by the Fishing Company of Alaska, a seafood company based in Renton, Washington. The ship was about 150 miles northwest of Adak. 2 merchant vessels responded to calls for help rescuing the crew. The ship is now derelict and drifting. It has not yet sunk. Everest Re plans to double its insurance business in the next years while it sees rates in reinsurance bottoming out. Everest Re is a big reinsurer. It's made a big push recently into the insurance sector because rates there are still attractive. Over a period of 3 to 5 years, Everest CEO Dominic Adesso said that Everest's insurance business could easily double in size. Its operations recorded about $1.5 billion in gross written premiums in the insurance sector in 2015. So if it doubles, it'll be well up over $3 billion. The big French reinsurer Scor is aiming for U.S.-generated business to account for about 25% of its global P&C portfolio in the next 5 years, according to its CEO, Victor Panier. Panier said that U.S. business currently accounts for 15% of Scor's global P&C premium. He said, "I'd like to get that to 25% in the next 5 years." The reinsurer has identified about 200 targeted clients in the United States in order to take a systematic approach to growth. Meanwhile, considering how much the reinsurance market has softened in the last 3 to 4 years, Mr. Panier said Scor needs to be ready to react to a large loss event. He said, quote, "We want to be ready for when the market turns. So today we are putting ourselves in position. In the meantime, we're managing the portfolio." Once again, everybody is waiting for the uplift in rates, which will be preceded by a minimum massive catastrophe of about $50 billion, which is what analysts estimate it's going to take to move the needle. And last night, officially, it's hard to believe this, but officially last night, the first woman was nominated to be a presidential candidate for one of the two major parties when Hillary Clinton was nominated officially by the Democrats to be their presidential candidate. Mrs. Clinton has been running for president so long, I should say, that we often overlook just how newsworthy and important it is that a woman has finally attained this status. Former President Clinton made a speech last night describing the relationship and arguing her case in front of the public. Mrs. Clinton is expected to take the nomination tomorrow night with her main keynote address. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.